Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Idiots in the Wild. First up today we have AITA for cutting off my bestie. You'll see why quotes as we get through there, by Sleepy Sheeps. Small trigger warning, topics of abusive relationships and physical abuse from an ex. Okay, so I, 18, female, gender fluid, went on my senior trip with my school on May 13th. And came back on May 15th. I'm being loose with the information because I graduated May 29th, 2025. And honestly, don't care anymore. On day one, we got there at the bus stop at 3 a.m. All was good. Me and my friends were excited and happy. We got on the bus and I wanted to sit with my friend Tammy. Before I could sit with Tammy, Alexa sat down next to her. Me and Tammy said, it's whatever because Alexa is our best friend. Day one is fine, other than the short waits at Universal Studios and Alexa refusing to redo a few fun rides and threatening to move on to the next ride with me or Tammy. Now, here's where things started to go south. By morning, I got up super early, I'm talking 5:30 a.m. early. Tammy was cool with it because she wanted to find the perfect outfit for Disney in the morning, while I, on the other hand, needed to shower before I was on my cycle again. Things were perfect. Alexa decided she wanted to sleep in, as she should, because out of the three of us, she stayed up super late, probably about 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., and me and Tammy, on the other hand, probably fell asleep around 12 a.m. Regardless, we waited to wake her up around 6:40, which would give her 20 minutes to get ready before breakfast time. By the time it was breakfast, we showed up late because it took forever to wake up Alexa. I should probably have put a warning before this story that I'd be saying Alexa a lot, so if you happen to have one, you might want to plug in your headphones now. By the time we got downstairs, we were ready for some food. Alexa had snapped at me and Tammy for multiple reasons. For starters, we got up too early, even though we discussed that we would be waking up this early multiple times throughout the day before we got to the hotel. Then we didn't wake her up early enough, even though she said not to wake her up. Then there was us being ready before her, and ready to get food without her. Checkout was at 7:40 a.m., and we all had to go downstairs and be ready to go at 7:50, so we could leave at 8 a.m. Finally, the last reason she snapped at us was because we left our luggage in the room and convinced her to do the same, since me and Tammy both thought we would come back to the room after Disney, about which we were wrong. Alexa yelled at us over the situation, making me and Tammy feel really bad about it. Which, yes, we know was a mistake, and that led to us being even more late to breakfast. We had to get staff to get us a car to let us into the room. Alexa, with an attitude, grabbed her stuff and left while me and Tammy had to scramble together and grab the food that was in fact mostly Alexa's and pack up what remained of our supplies from the day prior. We made it out probably around 7:45 a.m. and got lucky because the teachers went to the bathroom and were taking a super long time and didn't leave until around 8 a.m. to 8:10 a.m. Me and Tammy got food, which Tammy was super happy with, while I was still stressed out from the morning and struggled to eat a pancake. Alexa's excuse for her attitude was that she was hungry and needed her coffee as well. Oh, I thought it was just because she was a bitch. Well, guess I was wrong then. So we brushed it off because we didn't want to ruin the day over such a petty thing. We walked a few blocks to the park, which let me calm down. We got food at the Starbucks, which was pretty good. Tammy tried my food, which was the impossible breakfast sandwich, and a custom drink from Lemonade. And Tammy was impressed, while Alexa judged my food choice and insulted my impossible breakfast sandwich. I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but for context, back in 2015 to 2016, then 2018 to 2019, my parents became vegetarians, so I'm open to a lot of vegan and vegetarian options and love the breakfast sandwich from Starbucks. I can just say before we go on, I generally actually prefer the vegan, like burgers and chicken nuggets and things. I'll go for them over their meat-based equivalents now. I'm not vegetarian or vegan. I've just come to enjoy them. And also, there's no risk of bones. Now, fast forward. After several long waits through the park, Alexa asks, "Do we want to have dinner with my boyfriend and his friends?" Me and Tammy said no. For context, we aren't fans of one of Alexa's boyfriend's friends, due to some stuff he did to my other friend, which I won't be getting into for the moment. The rest of his friends we don't know, or he's like friends with a few dirtbags, and some who don't know how to act in public. Think of the stereotype of a group of guys in 7th grade, but stuck in the bodies of 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. Gross people who make inappropriate jokes that make others feel uncomfortable, while being obnoxious and very loud. Some of them have been kicked out of places because they've made people feel uncomfortable or upset. Another way to think of them would be people who participate in Minecraft movies type of guys, throwing buckets and bags of popcorn, yelling, causing a scene, dancing but hitting people around them, and making messes they won't clean up. Overall, we weren't going anywhere near that chaos. So I explained, after everything the guy did that hurt my friend, I just don't want to be around him because I know I won't be able to hold my tongue if he says anything to me. Off topic, he started dating a girl who threatened harm towards me when me and my ex got into a fight. It was so bad I had to get a form of restraining order against her, which he knows. I was and still am very mad at him. I can't be around him. Alexa didn't like my response and made the statement of, "Come on, OP, I just want to spend time with my boyfriend. If I can make sacrifices for you and your ex when you were 15, then you can make sacrifices for me and my boyfriend and his friends." For context, the ex she's referring to is my abusive ex that I got with when I was 15, and he was almost 18. I don't want to get into the details of what happened in this post, but when he turned 18 and I was still 15, he became abusive, and then wanted me to become a teen mom to his children. I posted on this in the past. It was a traumatic experience, and overall, I don't talk about it often now without having a panic attack. Thanks to this, I stopped talking for a good 15, 20 minutes just from shock, since the topic of my ex was out of nowhere. I almost cried and had to pull myself together since I was in public. Honestly, I say I did a pretty good job covering how I felt, but Tammy checked in on me a lot. I went from super chatty and happy to super quiet and distant, which shout out to Tammy for being awesome and taking a calmer approach to the situation of comforting me without being over the top. Alexa didn't apologize, naturally. We got to the ride after a few minutes, then Alexa ignored the tension and started talking about how we should get on the boat ride to rest and see where it goes, which was just a giant circle. I told Tammy that I needed some space because I felt very overwhelmed. She understood that and distracted Alexa while I called my girlfriend and told her what happened without crying. She comforted me as best she could, even though she was all the way in New Mexico while I'm in Disneyland. We hung up, and I realized I was being selfish by feeling how I felt, so I sucked it up and tried my best to get back to how I felt previously. We went to a gift shop so I could buy a plushie, but I started to actually feel unwell. It was in the 70-something degrees. I felt nauseous and lightheaded. I'm low on iron and bleeding a lot walking in the heat with a sweater on, and had to sit down. Everyone was getting hungry, so I took us to downtown Disney for lunch. By the time I got us to Splitsville, Alexa was mad because it would cost us a lot of money that we didn't have. When I told them they don't charge too much, and a good amount for the three of us. When Alexa got mad at me, and I suggested we go to California Adventure and look for something there, she refused. In Alexa's own words, she said, "They charge us for being inside the restaurant, and we have to order, otherwise we still get charged for stopping by at any other shop or restaurant." I was very confused. She wouldn't elaborate no matter how much I asked. So we sat down, and she gave both me and Tammy the silent treatment. Tammy, on the other hand, was nervous. She thought we would pay around $100 or $200 for the food and entry fee. I love Tammy, being that she's my best friend, but she doesn't go to many restaurants compared to me or Alexa. She didn't know if I was right or she was, but she was stressed out because she didn't have more than $12. I told her multiple times I'll pay for her portions, but she was very nervous. Tammy was so scared she ordered a water so the bill wouldn't be too much. Me and Tammy and Alexa got a cheese pizza and chicken fingers, and I think a Dr. Pepper and root beer with a water. Our total bill was about $53. Alexa kept looking for an entry fee, saying it's only high because of our entry fee. When I broke down the cost, she was shocked. We left with our pockets still full and our stomachs fuller. We had hopper passes, so we moved to California Adventure. We got there, and Tammy wanted to do the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Alexa was terrified, and in the process got in line and out of line multiple times. Eventually, she chose not to get in line. We waited in line for 2 hours. Within the 2 hours, me and Tammy talked about the situations throughout the day. Tammy was mad at Alexa for how she acted in the morning. By the time Tammy came back in line, I needed to make a quick call to Amazon over an issue with a package that didn't come on time. Surely Amazon would never do that. Yes, I called Amazon at Disney in a super long line. It was just to get a boring task out of the way in a super long, boring line. Within the process of the Amazon call, Alexa made fun of the lady who was helping me with the issue, mocking her voice and laughing loudly enough to mess with some of the audio. I had to shush Alexa, and I kept apologizing to the lady who was understanding. I felt really bad for that lady because Alexa made sure she heard every comment she had about her. Alexa kept making obnoxious comments, so I had to cut the call short. She knew that I was talking to Amazon. She thankfully got out of line permanently. By the time me and Tammy got out of line after the ride, she was dizzy, but so happy we found Alexa. Before we could speak, Alexa said at 6 p.m. she's leaving us to hang out with her boyfriend's friends and have a romantic moment with her boyfriend by going to the Ferris wheel and exchanging gifts once they hit the top. We could join her and her boyfriend by going to the cart under them. For lack of better words, me and Tammy said, hell no. Side note, look up a video of California Adventure's giant Ferris wheel. It is actually terrifying, especially how some of the carts slide and rock. We didn't want to third and fourth wheel their date. Something to take note of, we're not supposed to split from our group. By doing so, if we're caught, we will face serious consequences once we're back at school. They also made the plans that if me and Tammy won't go to dinner with Alexa and her boyfriend, she'll go regardless. They went to the Spider-Man ride. I was annoyed, so I went to tell my girlfriend again what happened. Which shout out to my girlfriend for being so supportive and caring during that day listening to my rants on Alexa. It took them a little while to get in and out, which, I warned them multiple times, the ride broke down on them. Alexa ditched me and Tammy to hang out with her boyfriend after. Long story short, me and Tammy had a great time, 5 hours. We got boba from San Fran, Tokyo, and Tammy got to try clam chowder bowls for the first time, which she's in love with. Off topic. Bread Bowls Best is Forever needs to be a t-shirt. She loves them so much, and so do I. And now this is finally the part that is the main reason for this post. As I said, it's been 5 hours since we heard from Alexa. It's time to go, and Tammy and I have to find her. Side note, there is an app we were supposed to download and get notes upon where we were supposed to go. Tammy is an Android user. Go Tammy. Alexa is an iOS user. I didn't have the app because we weren't supposed to split up at all. Tammy and Alexa had the app. I now know how stupid that was. Tammy's phone was at 2%, and we tried to find out the meeting spot. Alexa texted the group chat and said, "Stop calling, I'm at 25% and I need my phone, we can talk on the bus." We texted saying it's an emergency. We thought the bus got the students early because none of our classmates were around and we didn't see our bus earlier. Turns out, you need special permission to bring a bus to Disneyland, so we had to walk to the bus about 3 miles out. That sounds really badly organized by your teachers, it really does. The group thankfully didn't leave yet, everyone just shifted to Disneyland for the fireworks show. After spam calling Alexa, here's the main interaction after 10 calls. "What do you want? You're killing my phone battery." Tammy said, "Dude, where are you? Me and OP are lost and we're freaking out. Did the school leave Disney?" "No, we're all here by the fountain." "Cool, which fountain and by what shop? There's a lot of fountains." "The fountain on the way to the place we had lunch at." OP said there's a bunch of fountains. "Alexa, where are you close by so we can head toward that location?" We then hear her boyfriend chime in. "Oh my effing gosh, your friends are so..." And then he calls us the R slur, because he's like a super genius, apparently. "You'll see it once you're close by." "Tell them to use the effing app." Tammy responds by saying, "My phone is at 2%, nothing is loading, I'm calling from OP's phone." "Just start walking, when I see you, I'll let you know." I don't recall the rest of the call, other than Alexa's boyfriend using the R slur and cursing at us. Alexa didn't stop her boyfriend at all, and eventually said to call her boyfriend for instructions to find the place. Me and Tammy walked almost to the monorails in downtown Disney, and saw no one. We had to walk back to the gates and still saw no one. It was 11 p.m. I'm about to cry because me and Tammy are lost. We don't see anyone we recognize. We're getting called the R slur and cursed at by our friend's boyfriend. It's late, my feet hurt, I'm tired, I'm feeling sharp pains in my legs. I have issues with my feet, so if I'm on them for too long, I feel sharp pain in my feet and legs. I've been on them for 2 hours at that point, with no breaks, and a total of 3 or 4 hours. Tammy saw my eyes start watering and started yelling and cursing at both Alexa and Alexa's boyfriend. Their response? Hang up on us. Tammy hugged me and comforted me because the whole day overall had been a drag. We got lucky and found a teacher from our school and followed him. Turns out they had moved the first meeting spot, and apparently told no one, to this random hidden corner. We later go to the main meeting spot around 11:30 p.m. So badly organized. I mean, really, these... Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you've graduated. You don't need to deal with them any longer, but it's so badly organized. By the time Alexa reached out to us, she sent a crappy photo of where we were to meet later to Tammy's phone. After all this, I'm thinking about going no contact with my bestie. Yeah, you should definitely do that, and you should have done it years ago. The good thing is you're graduating, you've graduated high school, so it's quite normal to leave behind the friends you made in high school as you move on to other experiences. You could view this as a natural cutting off point, a time to do that. Some friendships will last a lifetime. This doesn't need to be one of those, because she doesn't sound like a friend. You certainly don't seem to enjoy each other's company, and she sounds like a very hostile person who is insistent on associating with people who are only going to be bad for her. So don't let her drag you down. I think you'll find you will flourish a lot better without her in your life. And next up is boss accused me of flirting with her husband, whom I had never interacted with. And this is by the Storm. I'm going to have to censor that on YouTube. This has been one hell of a week, and it's only Monday. I'm getting not just recounting the whole situation. I'm 22, non-binary, worked at a very small grocer in a small community on an island of less than 3,000 as a cashier. It was your standard minimum wage cashier job, with more responsibilities bundled in because there were only 10 people working there. I wasn't particularly enthusiastic on account of the fluctuating schedule, the morning shifts, the weekly restocks, and dealing with the people of the community, who were usually old, slow, and annoying, all for a paycheck of less than a Nintendo Switch. But jobs here are non-existent, and I would take anything over waiting tables, but was starting to get the hang of everything. That was until yesterday. I got dropped off at work around 6:50 a.m. by my mom, and my boss came over to the car and accused me of making passes at her husband on Saturday. He must be very sexy. He was busy helping package the meats in the deli out back, in front of my mother. Now here's the thing. One, I have not spoken to this man before or generally acknowledged his presence. as I was going back and forth from the counter delivering stickers to put on the meat packaging. That machine is by my register. The only thing on my mind at that time was a growing mental breakdown and doing my job. 2. I am very autistic, and I struggle to pick up on a lot of social cues. I'm also incredibly awkward. So I do not know how they would extrapolate that I was being flirty, especially to a stranger. 3. I already have a girlfriend, and I'm not interested in men. Quite right, men are awful, stay away from them. Especially married men from my community, who were older than my father, no less. Both me and my mom were confused and shocked at this, and Mom backed me up on the previous points. But my boss wasn't particularly convinced and kept bringing up that I had to fire someone before because of this. And I'll give you one more chance. That she was constantly referring to an email she sent on Saturday telling me that the man was her husband. I simply replied, thanking her for the clarification, and thought nothing of it. So giant red flags, and I knew this was going to be a crap storm. Mom simply told me to let her know if it got bad, and that she'd tell me the details about the last incident later. So I headed in, and this woman, for the first hours of my shift, kept pestering me about it. Earshot of customers as I went about my daily tasks. Saying things like, "Why did you reply to the email like that? Something is going on." Or, "You and your mom are lying about this." And asking me about my age and telling me to stop pretending not to be interested in guys. She even said to not look at him. She's married to Tom Cruise. Well, I can see why she'd be upset, losing all that money if they get divorced. Which is wild, because that man would not stop staring at me that Thursday, when I was trying to restock the bread shelf, and I tried not to acknowledge the weird guy because I was trying to do my job. Oh, by the way, guys, this, not sexy. Don't do it. Very petty, very unprofessional. She was acting extremely passive-aggressive and was staring at me. It was so bloody awkward, and my anxious butt was shaking in my boots. I did not understand it. I was so uncomfortable. It's Monday, and this bitch is trying to drag my name over insecurities. But because my mom was busy and home was like 40 miles away, I just had to tough it out until my shift ended. My mom texted me constantly to check up and make sure I was okay, as well as telling me that my dad said I had to resign. Once the shift ended and the financial woman came in, who I like and is the boss's niece, pulled me aside and told me that she chastised her aunt for the unprofessionalism and sending the email, and said that if I resigned she understood completely, as the past incident was a hot mess. I left, and on the ride my mom told me that a few months prior, the incident was that her husband cheated on her with a previous employee, and someone caught them cheating in the back of the deli. Not the kind of salami you want to be laying down in the deli. So, not only was it insecurities, but also the fact that she was willing to pull me under to protect an unfaithful creep. We discussed what to do, and I said I was going to resign, because $230 a week was not enough to deal with this, especially since she showed me her true colors and was petty. I pushed to the side. My mom got me a boba, and I sent an email today signing my resignation, in which I got 2 responses. A vague one around noon, and one about 30 minutes ago which looked long from my notifications bar, but I'm not reading that now because I'm mentally too tired for this crap. Okay, and thirdly today, we have entitled Woman and Daughter Delay Entire Flight by Chubby Labrador. I was on my way home from a bachelorette party across the country last year. I had a layover before my flight to my final destination. Thankfully, my husband had upgraded my boarding group before my trip, so I would be able to get my carry-on in the overhead compartment and not have to gate check and wait for my luggage. I was in the first or second boarding group. Before my group was called, the woman at the desk said over the loudspeaker that the flight was completely booked and they were asking for volunteers to gate check their bags. They called my group, and I boarded the plane. When I put my carry-on in the overhead compartment above my row, I noticed 2 other carry-ons that looked like they belonged to the crew. When I added my bag, it filled the compartment. I sat down, and eventually the flight attendant came across and closed the full compartments, including the one above me. As more groups boarded the plane, and the flight attendants repeatedly made announcements that the closed overhead compartments are full and to find another compartment. As the last group is boarding, the flight attendants are still making announcements that the compartments that are closed are full. At this point, I couldn't even see any open compartments. 2 women, I assume mother and adult daughter, make their way to my row. The older woman opens the overhead compartment above me and scoffs when she sees that it's full. She says something like, "Our bags need to go here." She proceeds to open the overhead compartment above the row across from me and scoffs again when she realizes that it's also full. I believe she opened one more before a flight attendant came by and told her that the compartments that are closed are full. The flight attendant then has to close all the compartments this woman opened. The woman then gets into an aggressive conversation with the flight attendant about needing to put her bags above her seat. The flight attendant said that the compartment is full and she would need to find another compartment. Her daughter then goes down the aisle looking for another, and the flight attendant turns around to help someone else. The woman then opens the compartment above my seat and takes my bag out and puts it in the aisle. I see Madame has chosen death, quite bold, but if you insist. The flight attendant comes back immediately and says, "You can't do that, ma'am. You need to find another place for your bag." The woman then explains that she needs to put her bags above her seat because she has a tight connection and has to make her way to the international terminal when we land. Now, I'm thinking this lady is an idiot. A, she could have paid the $30 to upgrade her boarding group like I had to be able to carry on in the cabin. And B, she probably should have booked an earlier flight so she could make her connection. We're flying to SFO, and that's a big airport. They were going to need to run to the international terminal to make their flight. Her daughter then approaches and says that there are no more open compartments on the plane. The flight attendant then says that if there are no more compartments, they will need to gate check their bags. She puts my bag back in the overhead compartment and closes it again. Eventually, another flight attendant approaches and joins the gate check discussion. They're discussing the logistics of getting their bags to their final destination and forms they'll need to fill out and all that jazz. But this woman keeps going back to the fact that she cannot gate check her bags. I swear she says it like 5 times, and the flight attendants keep telling me that there is no more room in the cabin. They're just talking in circles. Between all the back and forth and bringing forms and more staff into this debacle, they delayed the flight by like 20 minutes. Eventually, they had to gate check their bags and fill out some forms so their bags could make it to their final destination. Anyways, I have to sit next to this crazy lady and their daughter for the entire flight. She's coughing, sneezing, and has a runny nose, and just spewing all over the place. I'll bet she was stealth farting as well. Thank God I had a mask and wipes. I managed not to get sick. Before we land, the pilot makes an announcement that we have a few individuals who have tight connections, and to let them get off the plane first. He asks these individuals to raise their hands so the rest of us know who needs to get off first. Once we land, it's the free-for-all. Everyone who can get up does. And I'm just laughing, thinking there's no way these entitled women are making their flight. Even if they do, their bags won't. Okay, number 4. You're a public servant, I'm the public, get me a $100,000 job. By Confused and Neurotic. A bit of a doozy, but I thought I'd share this. A guy I met once back in 2018 through mutual work friends at the RSL, and who I've only ever exchanged highs and hellos with, messaged out of the blue on LinkedIn about a month ago. We had the usual pleasantries. He asked if I was still in hospitality, and that if I was looking for a new role. I told him I left the industry 5 years ago, worked in recruitment and aviation for a bit, and eventually, after hundreds of applications, tweaking my CV and cover letters countless of times, chasing feedback, and a handful of interviews, I had finally managed to land a government job. But I'm always open to new opportunities and asked if he had something in mind. That's when it got weird. He said, "Yeah, I'm looking too. As long as it pays the same or better than my current job." I said that was understandable. It ain't cheap to live in Brizzy. Cost of living anywhere really is completely insane. But then he hits me with, "Get me a job there." I was honestly confused. I thought he was about to tell me about a role, not ask me to go out and find him one. I asked if he meant in the government, and he said, "Any company, really. Just as long as it pays $100,000 or more," and practically started begging me to find him a job. Like, my guy, first of all, I don't even make that much. Nowhere even near that amount. I wish. So do I. Second, I'm fairly new, so I'm absolutely not in a position to recommend anyone, especially someone I barely know. We're basically strangers with LinkedIn profiles. I thought of not responding, but I know what it's like to be desperate for a new job, so I responded the next day and told him there are roles in government within that pay bracket, and the best advice I could give was to register on the official government job site and sign up for notifications for what he wants and be across the latest roles. He responded saying he did have a look, but didn't know how to format his CV or write a suitable cover letter. He asked me to send him mine so he could copy it. At that point, I was too dumbfounded to reply any further. Honestly, it just felt off. If he had asked me for help with his CV or advice from the beginning, I probably would have offered to look over it. I actually enjoy working on resumes and cover letters, and I've done it for friends before. But this just felt like he expected me to find him a job, fix his documents. Should I sit the interview for him too? Also, he could always Google it, right? And then a week later I got this message. "Thanks for not responding. Thought you worked in recruitment and would want to help. You're a public servant. Am I not the public? It's your job to help me." I am dead. And lastly today, shoplifters walked half my hometown to escape, only to end up right back in front of our shop by last ad 3330. So back when we lived in our hometown, my mom ran a small apparel shop, mostly saris, great business, loyal customers. But one day a lady from a nearby village came in, bought something, smiled, left. All normal, right? Next day, stock's off. One of the expensive saris were missing. We checked the surveillance cameras and turned out that same nice lady slid a whole sari into a pouch sewn under her own sari's bottom part when my mom briefly looked away. Now, my parents didn't raise fools. They somehow suspected she'd come back, and so she did. A week later, she strolls in again, this time with an accomplice, another middle-aged woman. My mom, pretending nothing happened, looked away just enough to let them think they're pulling it off again. They paid for one item and were about to leave when my dad casually enters through the front door. No yelling, no blocking their way, just starts asking calm, razor-sharp questions like, why steal? Why lie? Was it worth it? These women instantly started spiraling. Bedahu mari hor ho chuki hai hum kasi chore kanegi. Translation: Dear, we're old, how could we steal? I did try looking it up, 4 foot wasn't much help. You know the drill. They somehow wriggle out the door. My dad doesn't touch them, neither stops them, just follows them silently. Here's the wild part. They didn't know the area, so they walk in circles for like 30 minutes trying to escape, only to end up right back in front of our shop, I kid you not. Now exhausted and confused, they sat down on the ground and started crying. "Please don't call the police, we're poor," they say. So my dad thought for a moment and offered them a deal to either return the stolen items, pay half the cost, or we call the police. And as usual, they refused to pay by giving excuses like they can't afford that, so we should offer it to them for free, and other BS. Right at that moment, maybe pure coincidence, but one of my dad's friends shows up on a Royal Enfield, not a cop. Just a regular guy who came to say hi. The poor guy was just minding his own business and came for some work. Side note for the uninitiated, in India, Royal Enfield equals aura of a high-ranking police officer. So basically, after seeing him, my dad seizes the opportunity and yells, "Sir, we caught the shoplifters." These women instantly switched to a full-on meltdown. Started wailing, begged to pay, promised to return everything. Within minutes, we had the stolen stuff back and had gotten half price in cash. No police, no drama, just village dad logic, psychological warfare, and a very confused bullet rider who accidentally played the role of fake ACP. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by, well, subscribing is a good way to do it. You can also sign up for my Patreon page, and there's a link to that in the description. You do that, you get early access to the videos on Monday, all at once, for $1 a month, or more if you like. It's just pay what you feel, and you get early access to the videos. You'll also find a link to my merchandise store, which is currently hosted on Teespring. Okay. I think that's all the bits and bobs for now, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what is your favorite non-loaf type bread or bread type product? I like a wrap. In fact, it's the kind of thing that I'll not buy them for ages, and it's like, I've not bought wraps for ages. Then I'll buy wraps for weeks on end. I'll get quite good at wrapping them because they're wraps, and then I won't buy them for months and months and months, and then I'll buy them again and have to relearn how to wrap them properly. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, we'll take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. Okay, and this one came from Idiots in the Wild 204, and it was about what's the highest denomination of currency you've ever had in your possession. Not the most money you've ever owned, but, you know, like this single note. It was $1 or whatever value. Let's see. Today's answer comes from Annie Northman. The most I would have is carrying $100, and that's just if I chose to pay in cash for my hair appointment. Thank you very much for your answer, Annie Northman. And that brings us to the end of today's video. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourself.